Right, here we go. We got some more Khan Academy work. This is intercepts from a graph. I think this is something that you'll find pretty easy and intuitive to complete. But I do think there's some good reminders in here of some things that maybe you forgot or just didn't even know maybe. So we're going to be provided a graph, and we're going to be asked to enter the values for the y-intercept and the x-intercept. That's what's going to happen here. So we have this graph. And let's first start with the y-intercept. So the y-intercept we're talking about on the y-axis, where does that line, this line right here, where does that line intersect that y-axis? And so the intersection takes place when the blue line here crosses that point right about there. All right, so that is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is a location. It is an ordered pair. It is a x value and a y value together. That's what makes up the y-intercept. So we need to figure out, well, what's the x value of that point and what is the y value of that point? And so the two parts can be easy or challenging. It really can be as difficult as you want to make it. But part of the challenge that I see with students is on figuring out for the y-axis, for the y-intercept, figuring out the x value. Take a look at the x values. See, over here we have 0.2. Like this would be 0.4. And if you keep going over, like if you just keep going over in positives, and you get 1, you get 2, 3. Like if the graph is to continue into positive land, right? Like it just gets bigger going that way. Same thing here. You get, if you're to continue going to the left, -2, -3, -4. And so you have all these negatives, negative, 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 negative. And all of a sudden it changes into positive, right? So we have negative numbers, negative numbers, negative numbers, and all of a sudden, boom, positive numbers. There's clearly a point where it switches, right? It switches from negatives to positives. Well, at what point do you go from owing your mom and dad money to all of a sudden having money that belongs to you, or your bank account going from being in negatives and you owe the bank money, and all of a sudden you have money? What's that point that it changes? And the changes is when you have no money. You owe no money and you have no money, right? Like you don't owe the bank money, but you also don't have money, and that is 0, right? So the one thing that we have to keep a lookout for here is that this value for x is 0, and I see a lot of struggles with that with students. So the x value for the y-intercept is 0 because it goes on the y-axis. It's not negative, it's not positive, it's neutral, it is 0. The y-intercept, y value down here is going to be -0.7. It's exactly halfway between -0.6 and -0.8. So we have -0.7. For our x-intercept, we're going to go find the other axis, the x-axis. And actually, let me get rid of all the other things. The x-axis, right? We're going to go look on this line right here, the x-axis. Where does that blue line intersect the x-axis? And it's right here. All right. And so our x value would be from the origin, we're going to the left, -1.2. But what about that y value? The y value can be tricky as well here. What is the value of y? So similarly, we look at the y-axis. We go from reading from the bottom to the top here. We got negatives, 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 negatives. Oh, now it turned positive. How does that happen? The only way that happens is if at this point right here, this is actually a y value of 0. Anything on the x-axis is a y value of 0. And so I think what I've seen in students is a lot of times they memorize this as a rule, and they do well on, let's just say that you're doing 4 problems in Khan Academy. You do well, you get them all 4 correct, but then come 2 months later, you forget why. The key part to why this matters is you really need to look at the graph and think about what is the, on this axis at least, what is the value on that line? What is its value? Don't just memorize some little shortcut rule in your head, but actually think it through. What's the value of y here? And why is it 0? Like, why does that matter? Why is it 0? And then that usually seems to help it stick a little bit better. What I will do is I'll do 4 more problems just to kind of make sure that we're on the same page here. But I think most of you kind of will end up with sort of like a rule that you just kind of internalize in your head to get you through the week. My concern is I want you to know this for life. I don't want you to just know this for today. I want you to know how to do this. If it was to pop on a test in 2 months, would you get it correct? The x-intercept, we're talking about this point over here. And so actually I'll mark it on the, we're talking about this point right here. So the x-intercept, no, yeah, the x-intercept is that they changed it on us, is negative 250. And the y value at that point, right? Same conversation we just had, the y value, it is not positive, it is not negative, it's on the x-axis, which means the y value is 0. Oops, 0. Then let's go ahead and do the y-intercept. The y-intercept is up here this time, and it's at that point right there. So what's our x value? Our x value is right here, 0. And the y value is up at 100. Do another one here. I probably won't draw on the screen because I think it's kind of easier just to point. The y-intercept is down here. So our x value is 0 and our y value is negative 45. X-intercept is over here. So from the origin, the x value is negative 10. The y value is 0. And this one right here, the x-intercept is over here somewhere, right about there. So the x value is negative 7.5. The y value is 0. The y-intercept, we're going, there it is right there, but it has an x value of 0. It's not negative, it's not positive, it's 0. And the y value is 5.5. One more here, and that's going to be suffice. Y-intercept is an x value, the y-intercept's right there. The x value is 0. And the y value is 0.4. X-intercept is right here, so you're looking at an x value of 0.3, and the y value there would be 0. So, all right, so that is how you do these problems. I think you're going to catch kind of a way to memorize it. Most students, they kind of pick up on, oh, well, these are always opposite of each other, right? And that's helpful. It's good to know, but I want you to know why. If you look at a graph, why is this true? And that will help you out because you can always come back to that. When you're a junior, senior in college and you say, why? Like, what's the y-intercept? What's the x-intercept? Go back to the meaning behind, like, why is it? And I think that'll help you guys retain that information. All right, have a great day. I think you guys got this.